Good morning, everyone. So today is the day after the election, and this week's Torah portion tells the story of Abraham, the first Jew, was told, "Lech lecha, go to the land that I will show you." And God sends him to the land of Israel and blesses him that the land of Israel shall be his eternal inheritance for him and all of his descendants, the Jewish nation. And when Abraham leaves Ur Kasdim to go to the land of Israel, Canaan, it says he took with him his wife, Sarah, and his nephew, Lot. But then the Torah describes how there was a quarrel, a family feud, a major dispute between Abraham and Lot's shepherds, to the extent that they could not live in peace. And therefore they decided to part ways from one another. This nephew that Abraham took under his wings, who was an orphan, and provided a home for him, and brought him to the land of Israel, and now they can no longer live together. And so Abraham says, you choose your direction, and I'll take the other direction, and we will not have to fight and quarrel with one another. But then, shortly afterwards in the Torah portion, we read about how Abraham gets word that his nephew Lot was abducted and taken hostage in a war, in a regional war. And the Torah describes how Abraham takes his students, his followers, and goes to join the war, the battle, to rescue and free his nephew Lot and redeems him from captivity. What the Torah is teaching us here so beautifully is that even though Abraham had a falling out with his nephew, to the extent that they couldn't live peacefully and they had to part ways, the moment he heard that his nephew was in trouble, that he was captured, he went and risked and sacrificed his life to rescue his nephew Lot. And the lesson for all of us in our lives is that sometimes we may have disagreements, disputes, falling outs with others. But we should never forget what Abraham taught us. We're family, and we have to be together, and we have to be there for one another. Even if we have our differences, at the end of the day, we are one home, one family, one people. And I think this lesson of Abraham is very relevant. For the past year, America has been very divided leading up to yesterday's election. People called it a knife fight, down to the wire, and some regrettable things were said, and feelings were hurt, and people were offended. But now that it's over, we have to remember, at the end of the day, we're one nation, one people. And therefore we have to come back together again, and we have to be there for each other. Because if we're going to accomplish anything, we have to remember what Abraham Lincoln said, that a house that's divided cannot stand. And therefore we have to put aside whatever feelings or sentiments were generated over the course of this election. Just like Abraham put aside his differences that he had with Lot and say, I need to be there for my family, for my fellow people. And hopefully we can come back together and be one united nation. In Israel, one of the families that our synagogue formed a connection with is the Kalmanson family. The story is well known. Menachem and his brother Elchanan, who live in Otniel, which is a settlement near Hebron, on the morning of October 7th. When they heard what was happening down south at the Gaza envelope, they left their wives and children with their guns, and they went to rescue people from the terrorists. And they went into Kibbutz Be'eri and started to save fellow Jews from their homes and bring them to safety. They went in and out for 30 hours and rescued over 100 people, until tragically on one of the missions to rescue a woman in a home, a terrorist shot Elchanan, and he fell, and he was murdered. And this incredible family has built a synagogue in memory of Elchanan. And our synagogue was fortunate enough to raise funds to dedicate all the furniture in this new synagogue in Otniel in memory of Elchanan and his heroism and his sacrifice. And I've become close to his father, Rabbi Benny Kalmanson, and his brother Menachem, and many other family members. Elchanan's wife, he leaves behind a beautiful wife and 5 children. He was only 43 years old. And they named the synagogue Keshet Elchanan, the rainbow of Elchanan, because Keshet stands for Kedoshei Simchat Torah, the holy martyrs of the day of Simchat Torah. But Menachem Kalmanson, the brother, told me the following story. He says he was being interviewed by a news channel, and the reporter said to him, "I don't understand." He said, "You and your brother live in Otniel. Otniel is a settlement near Hebron." He says, "These Jews in Be'eri were kibbutzniks." He says, "You and your brother are religious Jews. They are secular Jews." He says, "You and your brother are what you would call in Israel right-wing, and the kibbutzniks are left-wing. Why did you and your brother leave your families and drive an hour and a half down to the Gaza envelope to risk your lives for people who are so different than you?" And Menachem Kalmanson said he began to cry. He couldn't even respond. And he said he started to cry that a Jew could even ask such a question, because to him it was clear. Whether you're right or left, religious, secular, settlement, kibbutznik, that's not what is relevant or important. What's important is we're brothers and sisters, we're a Jewish nation. And I think we have to remember that going forward today. At the end of the day, we have to put aside our differences, come together as one, work together with one another, and do what's in the best interests of our country, the security of our country, the world. America is a leader, a superpower. The world depends on us, and therefore we need clarity, we need vision, we need unity, and we need to stand together to make sure that we can create the best future for ourselves, our children, our grandchildren, and for all of humanity. I pray that we can begin the process of reuniting our nation. Have a wonderful day.